Right here, I'm going to explain progression of early number and counting. So first, kindergarten students at the age that they are, they learn different spatial patterns and recognition, and they learn that before they reach kindergarten. So they will be able to tell, for example, right here, there's 4 cups and there's different amounts of marshmallows in each of the cups. And so what kids can do, they can separate each of those and say there's 3 marshmallows in 1 cup, and then 6 marshmallows in another, and then 1 in another, and then 4 in another. And then from there, they learn subitizing as well, and they learn that before kindergarten too. So from this example, there's 5 dots, and what they can gather is that there's 3 dots and there's 2 more, which is conceptual. And then what kids can also do as well, they can just guess different numbers or say random numbers without really explaining why there is 5. For example, if they say 3, 6, 8, and 10, but they don't know exactly how they got 5. And then from there, what kids gather is that there's more or less of an item. And so right here in this example, which garden has more flowers? And in this case, it's the right one because there's 5 flowers versus 3. And so in the more and less method, they visually see the difference between the comparisons. And then there's the count to compare, which they start learning in kindergarten. And within that, there's rote counting. And so there's, for example, if they're learning a sequence between 1 and 5, but they just randomly say various numbers, they just don't know when to stop. And so from there, like, there's also number tables that can help, and they can tell the difference. For example, in a number table that goes from 0 to 100 and it starts from 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, they know that it's going up. And then there can also be another number table where it starts at 100 and then goes down, which then they know that the numbers are decreasing. And then from there, there's a one-to-one correspondence. And in this method, for example, there's 7 diamonds, and, well, they have to figure out how many there are. And so there's a counter and a producer, which it's good for kindergarteners to be both because they can produce that there's 7 diamonds in a basket, and then they see how many are left, and which then they then count how many weren't in the basket. And so from there, like, the number tagging from 1 to 1 matching is that, well, with each of these smiley faces, they go to each star, and so they know that there's obviously none left over, and so each of these belong to one of the smiley faces. Then from there, you reach cardinality, which is when a certain amount of items are being counted, and then the last number in the sequence is the quantity. So for example, right here, this is a counting strategy, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cherries, and so the last number is 6, so therefore there's 6 cherries in the number sequence. And then from there, you reach hierarchical inclusion, which is where numbers are within numbers. For example, right here, it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's numbers within 6. So, for example, 3, but right here, there's 6 cherries within 1 item, but you can also separate each of them and say there's 5 cherries within 6 cherries total, or something like that. And then from there, you go on to number conservation, which is where students learn decomposition numbers or decomposition and numbers that can be broken apart, which is pretty much what decomposing is. So right here, there's different amounts of worms. There's 6 worms. And, well, where are there more worms, which would be asked to the students. And some of them may say that there's more on the bottom because they're more spread out, but they actually have the same amount because these ones are also 6, except they're just closer together and aren't as separated. And then within the decomposing, you can say, for example, the number 5, it can be split into 4 plus 1. So right here you can see 4 triangles, and then plus 1, and then also 1 plus 4, which it's the same exact thing to this one, except there's 1 triangle in the beginning, and then 2 plus 3, which also equals 5, except it's just separated differently, and then 3 plus 2, which is also similar to 2 plus 3, except the numbers are flipped, so then the green triangles come first.